All right, so today we are looking at reciprocal trigonometric ratio practice. So I'm just going to go through and do a couple of these, and then I'm going to have you do it on your own and check it in with me. Okay, so we're going to write all six: cosine, sine, tangent, secant, cosecant, cotangent for each angle. So I'm going to do number one, and then I'll do a harder one. So we want to go to the cosine of 120. So I know that's looking up the x for it, and I get -1/2. Now I'm going to do the sine of 120. The sine is the y value at 120, which is √3/2. And then I'm looking at the tangent of 120, which is the √3/2 over -1/2, which gives me -√3. So those first three should be really familiar. We've been doing them since before break. Now we're going to do the harder ones. We're going to do the secant. Now secant is 1/x, so it would be 1 over -1/2, which gives us -2. We're going to do the cosecant. Ms. Murphy speaking. She's not. Bye. So we're going to have 1 over the √3/2, which ends up being 2 √3/3. Then cotangent is -√3/3, because it's √3/2 over -1/2. Anybody have a question about any of those? Yep. So I think I'm going to do a harder one. I think I'm going to do number 5 before I go to the back. Yeah. Can't zoom in too much because I want you to be able to see all 6. So I'm going to do number 5, and then I'm going to move to the back. 2 √3/3. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 5. Number 5 is -840. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is go, it's negative, so I know I'm going to have to go a different direction, but I have 840, and I'm going to subtract 360 from it, and I get 480. So I have to subtract 360 again, so I get 120. So this is 120, but it's a -120. So then I'm going to go So I'm going to go to my unit circle, and I'm going to count backwards: 30, 45, 60, 90. 120 is really 240. Okay, so I'm really looking at 240 because I'm going in the negative direction. It's opposite of it. So the cosine at that is -1/2. So what's the sine? You're looking at 240. What's the sine there? -√3/2. And so my tangent is going to be what? A negative divided by a negative means it's going to be a positive √3, correct? As much as we can do right now. I'm in the middle of recording.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right. Secant of -840 is going to end up being -2. It's 1 over -1/2. Cosecant is going to be negative 2 square root 3 over 3. And then my cotangent is going to be square root 3 over 3. So I don't believe there's anything harder than that. They're all just, remember, if they're bigger than 360, you subtract 360 till they're gone. If it's negative, you go the opposite direction. Instead of going counterclockwise, you go clockwise. Or if you look, it's directly opposite them. All right, let's go to the back. You're going to do the rest of this on your own. We're going to do number 7 on the back. This is very similar to your warm-up, which is why I had you guys do it. So we need to find the sine, cosine, tangent, secant, cosecant, and cotangent for A. But I'm only given 2 sides. So how am I going to figure out the third side of this right triangle? You're going to use what? Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to go 4 squared plus x squared equals 5 squared. So x squared, we get 16 plus x squared equals 25. We're going to subtract 16 from both sides, and we get x squared equals 9. We're going to take the square root of both sides, and we get x equals 3. So this side right here is 3. Okay, so if I'm looking at A, 3 is what to A? The opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? 3 is the adjacent. Hypotenuse is always directly across from 90, and it's always the largest side. So 5 is our hypotenuse, which would make 4 the opposite. Okay? So, and I might write this at the top of my paper too, especially if I'm afraid I'm going to forget. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. Cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. And cotangent is adjacent over opposite. No, you could have put 4, excuse me, I got asked a question and I just want to clarify. When you're doing the Pythagorean theorem, I could have had x squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. The only thing that's important is that whatever the hypotenuse is by itself. Okay, otherwise you're good. All right, cosine of A is adjacent over hypotenuse, so it's 3 over 5. The sine is opposite over adjacent, so that's 4 over 5. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent, so that's 4 over 3. All right, secant is hypotenuse over adjacent, so that's 5 over 3. The sine, the cosecant, is hypotenuse over opposite, so it's 5 over 4. And the cotangent is adjacent over opposite, so that's 3 over 4. Okay? So you just have to use Pythagorean theorem to find that missing side. And then it's just opposite over adjacent or adjacent over opposite using those. Please make sure you have those at the top, though. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. And then secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. Cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. And cotangent is adjacent over opposite. If you got that, you're good. Okay, before you are finished today, and I am going to check off your name that you did it, I want you to finish this worksheet front and back. We've done a decent amount of the problems. So you need to finish it up, come check it off with me. I've got the answers up here as well. Okay, and then you do have your homework for tonight.